Welcome to another edition of Mortgage Meet, marketing, education, activities, and tips for mortgage loan originators. Joined today with my mentor, my coach, Mr. Thaddeus Cahil, the Spartan of Consulting, Tim Cahil. Say hello.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good day, everyone.
So we're going to dig into a good topic today about tender transactions. We've all had deals that have gone sideways. But before we do that, I want to know something, Tim.
All right.
Favorite steakhouse?
So I thought quite a bit about that, but I thought about it in terms of value. So the Yard House bone-in ribeye, you get a good-sized piece of meat. You get some, I think they're cheese, kind of mashed potatoes, and some broccoli.
So you don't have to think about it. That's what I like. You go in, you get that, boom, nice meal.
So for the price and the meat, I've had great success at the Yard House.
Whatever Yard House, we do accept gift cards. How do you get that cooked over there?
Medium rare.
Medium rare.
Absolutely.
That's the best way to have a steak.
Yeah.
And we usually ask what size, but the nice thing, like you said there,
I think it's like
comes like a platter.
Yeah.
The other thing that's nice about that
it has some really good sauce that you could dip both the steak and I like to take the mashed potatoes and dip them in the sauce. I want to say it's like a Korean barbecue sauce or something. It's absolutely that just.
So why we film this before we eat? I'm getting hungry already.
You get some of the steak just plain, without maybe a little salt and pepper, and then you get to tang it up a little bit when you use the sauce. And I just love that.
Well, the other cool thing is you might be able to get a nice pint of ale.
There you go.
Or something to go on the side.
I think they go up all the way up to Yard House.
And they use those huge ones, and then you see people breaking them. I think they went down to small ones. Anyways, thanks for sharing that. You know what? Do you mind grabbing me?
No, not at all.
One of my favorite little beverages.
Okay, sure. All right.
This is going to look like a commercial today. One day we're actually going to get something from a sponsor. Oh.
There you go.
Topo Chico. I love these guys. Tangerine flavor, the best. Okay, so.
Are you drinking that or am I drinking that?
You want to get one?
Get one. I love those too, yeah. Oh.
We're talking about Yard House. You think we were cracking open beers right now, but we don't do that during the day. You got LA Marathon coming in, which I haven't trained at all, so that's probably a bad start.
When is that?
That's 2 weeks.
You're going to go for it without training?
Well, ran 10 miles the other day. So.
Okay, good for you.
All right, so obviously you've been in the mortgage business a long, long time. Maybe give a brief history of how Cahil got started.
So started as a loan officer, no training, and small company. And was motivated almost exclusively by fear. Just had gotten married. My wife was pregnant, and so I had.
What a motivator, though, right?
Yep. And I met my wife when she was 14. I turned 16. We're still married today. And
congratulations.
Yeah, so it's very unusual that it works out that way, but for us it worked out. At the end of the day, my son Tim was in the oven cooking. And I had to go get a job. And so my brother-in-law, Don Rosenthal, had a company called Pioneer Mortgage. And he was a mentor of mine, a great man, taught me many things. And he started me in the business. And so started loan officer, scared to death. But had a lot of reasons to go out.
There might be some people watch us today that maybe are new, or even if you're not new to the industry, we're coming out of some of the roughest 2 years. Yes. I mean, I've been doing this 28 years, I believe.
Yep.
I don't think it was any harder ever, right? So we second guess ourselves. We have fear today, so it's not uncommon.
Right. So then from there we went to work for them, became a loan officer, worked for one other company, and then my brother-in-law sold his Pioneer Mortgage, but then he came back into the business, and we started the company South Pacific Financial Corporation back in '83, I think it was. I came over as the main producer. At that point, I had some success in originating. We started that company, and then we grew that company up. And then we ended up going many, many years, through all the cycles. And we ended up selling that company to William Lyon Home Loans in 2019.
Home builder, right?
Home builder, yeah. So we had a successful transaction. I had a partner at that time, John Johnson, that was running the company. Great secondary guy, Dan Malouf, just people that are excellent leaders, good production sales leaders. Sold the company, and then that's when I started. I started consulting probably about 6 months before that in July of 19, before the company had sold, and started doing some, just consulting with some friends and stuff. And I've enjoyed it ever since,
Well, I think a lot of what you've shared with me personally in my life as well is what you've learned in the industry for sure. But you've had some pretty amazing sales training in your life, and it comes through. It's not like you just figured this out. So
no. So
you were scared, and then did the training make you unscared? Is that?
No, Keith, that's perfect. I just one of the most powerful moments for me in the business is I was a loan officer, was full of fear, but I was successful. At that time, I was doing about 8 or 9 transactions, 8 to 10 transactions a month out here in the Inland Empire. And there was this sales training put on by Magic by one of the industry leaders. His name was Chris Averin, credible public speaker, credible trainer. And so we went there, and there was 200 loan officers there. And the first thing he does is he raises his hands. How many of you are doing X number of transactions? How many are doing X? So how many are doing 10 a month? And at that point, I was 8 or 10 a month. So I look around, and there's very few people doing 10 a month.
Yeah, right. Sometimes we don't know in the pond you're in. Right?
Yeah, I had to sit in the front row always because it keeps me from hearing all the noise. And if I raise my hand and ask a dumb question, it's not dumb. So Chris delivered an incredible day on what would happen if you actually began to learn selling skills and applied it to your job. I went out to my car. At the end of the day, at the closeout, he says this to the group. He says, less than 10% of you will do anything of what I'm saying. So I'm looking around.
That's pretty, it's funny. It's like whenever you talk to successful people, most of them don't mind sharing because they already know that. And even they tell you what they did, you're probably not going to do it.
I was so young and, so much out of the fear mode that I thought, wait a minute. So I looked around the room. There's 200 originators from all over California.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, this is a chance to actually continue to differentiate myself, which I didn't even know what those words meant at the time. I went out to my card. I took my card. I turned it over, and I wrote 3 words, I'll do it. And I took the card. I put it on my dash right there. And so I started using professional selling skills. And then that's when I went from 10 to 20 homes a month. Yeah. It was a matter of time. I'd go in to see a realtor. I'd actually go to the car. I'd fill out notes about the realtor in the car. Nice. I began to apply what Chris said. And that started me getting really hungry on learning more and more about sales. So I've been to, too many to name, because I've been in the industry for a long time, but just over and over again, just continuing to learn and grow. And that revolutionized my business. I was doing it not on purpose, and then I began to do it on purpose, and then the rest is just history.
So I think about that. What a lot of people, I don't think that they, to your point, do it on purpose, right? And that could be either way. They may be failing a little at some of the tasks right now. They're not doing it on purpose, right?
Right.
And at the same point, they may be doing really well, but not on purpose, and they can't replicate it. Right. I think that is such a good word because you do need to get up and do it on purpose, track it. I know you're big on this, and I'm sure touch a little bit about that. But what's your saying about what you track?
Well, it's a management principle. Whatever gets measured improves. Whatever gets measured and reported, the rate of improvement accelerates.
Yeah.
And so why not measure? And then why not report? And then why not have someone hold you accountable? So it's a very, very straightforward process just to implement in any role, in any business. Very straightforward approach to just making sure that we used to say this word, I still say it, energy follows focus. And so that's for me is like, where's my energy? That's where my focus is at. And when I do that well, when I do it in balance, I end up being a better version of myself. So,
well, we like this version. This is a pretty good version of Tim.
You're very kind. You're very kind. Yeah.
So today, Tim, it will be a repeat guest in the future because he's a personal friend of mine as well. Also, he will be doing a live lunch and learn style event. We'll give you the details at the end, but it'll be later this month, March 19th, I believe. But we'll give details for everybody if you're interested. It'll be a great opportunity to hear him in real life. Today, though, we want to talk about tender transactions. Everything I've got here is somehow meat-oriented, but think about this. Everybody's had a deal that didn't go perfect, right? And I think that in our business, in any business, but the only business I know is mortgage business, we're judged by how we handle the difficult ones, right? It's real easy to be like, oh man, that deal came in, that deal closed, pat me on the back, I'm amazing. Look, the prosser did a great job on that one. The borrower was responsive. Everybody was all on point. You closed in 7 days with, whatever, great. That's not when we get judged on. So today, Tim's going to share with us a little bit what do you do when it doesn't go so perfect?
Yeah.
And he's going to give you real action steps
Yeah.
on how to implement that. So
Yeah.
with that, Tim?
Yeah. So one of the workshops I went to at one of Todd Duncan's event, it was one of the speakers within Todd's 3-day event,
Mm-hmm.
and his name of his talk was knowing without doing isn't really knowing.
Okay.
I remember sitting back, and at that point I was already building a business, building a company, et cetera, had branches and salespeople working for me. Great time to be down there with all those people. But I remember that just kind of sat on me really strongly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, knowing without doing isn't really knowing. And so if you just know, you can be a philosopher, you can be a teacher. But without the implementation, without the doing, without the repetitive practice, you never become it.
Yeah.
And so if there's one thing to take away,
Mm-hmm.
if there's something you learned today or you gain some knowledge today of one or two things, be the kind of person that becomes a practitioner.
Yeah.
And so when I am doing coaching and mentoring, I'm heavy on taking clear action. In my consulting business, I use the words clear goals,
Mm-hmm.
clear roles, clear goals, and clear actions. And so it's almost like if any problems in front of me in business, and I can see that framework. So my encouragement is literally to maybe take a pencil and paper out if you want to. I do, and you'll hear why in a minute, and put down some golden nuggets. But then when you go from knowing to practicing to repetition to doing, the end product is wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
It's wisdom. And so experience.
Is there ever
wisdom.
a time that you are too old to gain wisdom? Like I'm 52. Have I passed my prime to learn anything?
No. So
good.
One of my business coaches, one of my best mentor, he was like a second father. His name's Jack Dolmeyer. He worked for. Just saying his name, brings a lot of memories to me. Yeah. So I've got to be careful here. But so Jack Dolmeyer was mentored by Jack Welch, who ran GE. Mm-hmm. Jack worked for him. Jack invested in me in 1995 to 2013 when he passed on. And I kind of lost myself there emotionally with Jack. I got to remember my thought.
Well, we were talking about could you get too old to learn?
Perfect. So Jack, thank you. Can you follow me around everywhere?
Yeah, we'll do that.
My wife, everybody helps with that.
So if we can only have a camera follow us around to play back when we,
well,
what did we say?
Let me get my AI going so it helps me. So Jack wrote his dissertation at the age of 75. Okay. And he had run several businesses. He was a coach for executives. He wrote his dissertation on how people grow, evolve, and train. So this was a thesis.
Yeah.
This is not just me saying this. But he ended up saying, I've said it to you before, that the most productive years in a human being's life are between 55 and 80.
So I just wanted to hear that again to remind myself for everybody. Because at 52, I said, man, I don't think I can learn anymore.
So I had the pleasure of participating in Jack's his dissertation. He did some analysis on my own company, some of my people, and then he also included some stories about our company in it. And at the end of the day, this is his thesis, and it was accepted. He got his doctorate. I wish I remember the university. I read it. I loved it. But it's how people go and evolve.
Yeah.
And when do they actually quit actually making a difference? And I
never stop till the day I leave.
Right. So what happens is the most difference they're going to make with the most wisdom, because of the knowing, doing, repeating, and wisdom becoming. When you become something, now you give it away. And so between 55 and 80, those are the most wise years to give back and to give away and to reproduce, et cetera, et cetera. So
wonderful.
So
a little bit of wisdom you're going to share today is those challenging transactions or clients, and how do we get back on track if we kind of go off the tracks a little bit?
Yeah. So you could pick up any book, you could AI it, you could do 1,000 things to figure out what are the steps to recover a customer when there's a problem. I call them, pinch points. Mm-hmm. Something goes poorly in a transaction. And so I have 7 steps. In my company, I turned this into a PowerPoint. I did it as training for my people. I had them participate in it. It's a great experience.
So you've lived it, so I know it works.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so the first thing I want to say is Jack taught me, there's 3 or 4 people that invested in me
Uh-huh.
about what they called caring.
Okay.
Okay. And there's just a big difference, someone who really cares and someone who doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And you know when you're on the receiving end of real care versus just someone who's faking it. So
Yeah.
the first thing I would say is, do a little convictions test
Mm-hmm.
and ask yourself, in the very best version of myself as a broker, originator, customer service individual, do I care?
Yeah.
And so I'm developed this from the standpoint that I really cared.
And that's funny. Well, not funny, but if you don't care, it's going to come through probably pretty easily, right? I mean, people read people. So.
Yeah. And so the thing, so then now that I kind of got to and trust me, when I was younger, there's a lot of ego in me still, but when I was younger, there's a ton of ego.
Yeah.
Top salesman, all that stuff's like, okay, that has its place. It's important and it's part of our evolution and who we are. But at the end of the day, I didn't wake up caring, but I had mentors who invested in me. So a couple examples, I didn't get permission to say people's full names, but one of them was a realtor named Carol. She ran a world-class shop in the city she was in. You could only go in if you wore a suit and tie as a loan officer. She sat me down as a baby loan officer and just drilled me that my customers are everything, Tim. Yeah. I'm like, okay, sure, we all hear that. No, my customers are everything, Tim.
Yeah.
And then when I saw her act it out and I had earned enough trust to get some transactions from her, it was like, wow, she's putting money behind it. Yeah. If there was a problem on a termite that she didn't expect, she'd write a check for it. She literally, so she mentioned me, and there was another one that Diane, who invested in me. And she was a truly caring person. And these people are, so it's like, who was in my sphere?
Yeah.
So I was totally blessed with who was in my sphere for realtors. At the time, I was a little too young to really appreciate it as much. Looking back, I appreciate it. So the first thing is, do you care?
Okay.
So, but the first.
If you don't care, you probably don't even. The rest doesn't matter, right?
Well, you might.
I really don't care. You're pissed off. Whatever, dude.
Yeah. You might have even disconnected from this podcast already.
yeah.
Which is fine. Free to be me. But the first thing is you got to acknowledge issue and take responsibility. And so, that sounds so simple, but it's just, sitting in a place where you'll say, okay, something has happened on a transaction. I need to go into it with a caring, I call it always a heart. I got to be hungry to know what's really going on here. And so then after that, it's like being transparent and being also accountable, admitting that there's a problem. So number one is acknowledge the issue and then be accountable, which means they're bringing me the issue. I'm going to be the person. If it's my transaction, I'm going to take this issue and follow it all the way through to the end. I'm going to take responsibility.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, actively listen to the customer's perspective. So I'm going to give you a tip that I use today. And you can probably tell I talk a lot, and I do. When I
not as much as me. It's hard for me to sit still.
Okay. So the thing I would say is if you're if you're more vocal or exterior processor and you get called in on a pinch point or a problem, I developed a strategy called the listening pad.
Okay.
It's the 8x14. I get the pad out, and it's almost impossible for me to talk and write.
Gotcha.
But I had to break myself from customer calls in with an issue, and right away I'm Johnny on the spot rather than really hearing. So actively listen to the customer's perspective. Actively listening is an art form. I could do a seminar on it. The point is just get a notepad and a listening pad. Call it a listening pad.
I love that.
Yeah, it'll change. Wouldn't it be nice if we would listen to the customer when they're telling us the problem? Well, the only way this guy can do it is if I had a notepad.
Well, I will take that personally to note because I can't tell you how many times my brain is going, my ADD. Yeah. I hear them sharing maybe a concern, and I'm like, oh, I know where this is going. Yeah, got you. We'll fix it.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't even get to the pain point yet. So
what's interesting
definitely need to learn that.
What's interesting, one of the clients working with is reading this book called Winning Excellence. You're reading this too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so what happens is this guy describes something that I would have probably put in my 8th step.
Yeah.
But the concept is you're not just about solving the problem, you want to re-earn their loyalty.
Oh,
And so the steps I'm going to give you, you're positioning yourself to re-earn their loyalty. Okay, so listening pad, okay, it actually shows them. And what I would say, I'm a salesman, you know that.
Yeah.
I would say, Keith, I understand what you're saying. Let me get a note and pad to hear you. If I got a hot customer during that execution of that
The
simple
de-escalation
script,
is starting.
my tone and everything draws them into another place.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I'm gonna have you later on. I'm gonna talk about the file you set up for these notes that are gonna change your life that you won't hear anywhere else. But at the end of the day, that's where the learning part comes in. So you've got to actively listen to their perspective. One of the things I said over and over again was, Keith, your feedback is so critical to making my company better. Yeah. Keith, your feedback is so critical to making me and my team better. Keith, everything you're giving me right now that I'm taking notes on, I just want you to know your feedback's incredible for making my company better. So that's almost like an embedded command.
Well, the cool thing about that is you're showing that you care, right? And if you do care about making your company better. I'm sure people are listening to this because they want their company to be better. Yes. And I don't want this situation to come up again if we can avoid it by learning from it.
Right. And that's where that's where it's going to come full circle in a minute. And then offer a sincere apology. That's pretty straightforward. You know, whether it's a loan delay or even like I say in the wholesale environment, you know, a condition that doesn't make sense, that you know it doesn't make sense, but it's on the approval. How do you deal with that? How do you help them with that?
Anybody watching, a quick question. I don't know if anybody watching has ever had an underwriting condition they didn't like. I know that's ever happened, you know.
Yeah, so one, acknowledge and take issue, take responsibility. Two, actively listen. And I say use a notepad.
Listening pad was your term, right?
Listening pad, yeah. Listening pad.
I listened.
And then be willing to convey that the feedback's important. Yeah. Okay, that's a simple way. Hey, your feedback's important. For me, I add it to make my company or my team or myself better, and then offer a sincere apology. Yeah. Hey, Keith, I see where you're coming from. I've taken the notes. Man, I'm sorry. This is bad. Or maybe it's instead of Bud Light, maybe it's Bad Light or not. Yeah. You know, it's not that heavy apology, but just enough to say, man, I'm really sorry it happened. Yeah. Tell your processor we'll get back to her on that condition right away. Or maybe it's like, I don't know what could happen in a transaction, but in all my years, a lot of things could happen. Sure. And sometimes you got to pour on you got to say, man, I'm really, really, really sorry. Yeah. This is, truthfully, Keith, this is as bad as it's ever gotten for us as a company. Mm-hmm. And then I would just zip up right then. Just let that linger. They're like, wow, your feedback is so important to make this company better, that this never happens again to another one of our customers. Yeah. So that's the whole loop of thanking them for the feedback. Sincere apology. Propose a solution. So some of these are tricks of the trade, because the hotter the issue, I call this the short leash call. Mm-hmm. Major issue. I listened right away. I called my underwriting manager to see what I could do. Mm-hmm. Short leash, I call back. Mm-hmm. I say, Keith, I want you to know I presented it to the underwriting manager. Short leash means I'm going to pour on customer service. The hotter the issue, the more I call back. Mm-hmm. So it's called a short leash call in my world.
Gotcha. Okay.
I got delivered a bomb. It went bad. I'm sorry. I'm going to go after the solution. I want them to even know that I sent it forward. Mm-hmm. I took action on it. I don't have a response yet. I just want to show I took action. The higher the pinch point, the more I call back.
Makes sense.
She's got it. We're on it. It just gives them the sense that, man, this guy's serious about it.
Now, what timeline are you thinking? There's a short leash, most things short time. I mean,
yeah. I use all these crazy Cahilian words, but they're just basically little. Don't let that very short leash to call back. Be proactive in it. Mm-hmm. You don't have any new information, but you're just telling them you're on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I love this one, the clarifying callback. Mm-hmm. Keith, look at, we talked about 3 hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to my manager about it. You know what I want to do? I really just want to clarify what you said. They may think you're crazy, but you're actually sending them the message that you really, really do care.
People probably do think I'm crazy.
Okay, yeah.
That's a separate therapy call.
Yeah. So this is all in the process of trying to bring them back a solution.
Yeah.
So if it's a really bad situation, then you want to give let's say you get a turn down on a file.
Yeah.
I do the loan officer. You got the realtor screaming at you.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be able to say, wow, I've already talked about it. You want to do short leash calls, and you want to do clarifying calls if you can. So those worked really well for me. I would call that proactive communication prior to solution.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a little bit of a subcategory under 4. Number 5, follow up to ensure satisfaction. So let's say that you created the solution, you got the condition waived, whatever it is. At that level, all's done, and now let's say a day's gone by, you've gone to docs or something.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to do a follow up. Just say, hey Keith, I know we got that condition waived. I'm just checking back with you, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry again. I know it didn't go well with that realtor that you had because we got a delay. Anything else I can work on for you? Any other thoughts? Anything else? Just get my docs, whatever. No problem.
Cool.
It's just showing proactive reaching back to let them know you cared.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's step number 5. Step number 6, learn from the experience. So if you're tracking with the topic of this workshop or this thing, it would be the 7 steps of customer recovery.
Mm-hmm.
That was my workshop, my PowerPoint. At the end of the day, I had a file, my listening pad, make my notes, rip it off, put it in the file. So I had a file for every single customer complaint there was. And I had it with me. I wanted to own it. I wanted to learn from it. I wanted to train from it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the only way you're going to learn from the experience, you can learn in your memory, but there's nothing like learning as a team.
Yeah.
You know, so I would clearly keep a file for those listening pad notes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then share them back with the team, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would do a myriad of things. So Keith, I have a file. You know, our company isn't perfect. We've made mistakes before. Surprise, surprise. I want you to know all the feedback you're giving me is going into my file.
Yeah.
And I spend time working on this file to make sure my business continues to get better. Your feedback and the notes I have on this and the solution we came up with is going to be a tool I use to help others grow and get better. First, myself.
Yeah.
You know, I want you to know I'm committed to get better. So learn from the experience. Learn from the experience. Learn from the experience. And the final step is there's 2 parts to the last step. Document the interaction and resolution. So on your listening pad, step 7 is you've set up the file, you've documented everything, and then the closeout for me was always a personal card. Okay.
Gotcha.
How do I say it the best way? I was a successful loan officer, broker. We did transactions mostly on time. You know, the pinch points were, you know, my business was never blowing up because I really understood the guidelines. I was really passionate about helping customers, so I didn't have a lot of problems. But when they came up, there was so if you got a ton of problems and you might have to write a lot of cards, or you didn't put it in a file, you didn't learn from it, or you didn't expose it to your team. But I always wrote a note and thanked them no matter what the situation was. And you know, I write notes to this day.
Yeah.
You know, it's very old school. Part of the recovering loyalty is I call it the closeout of step 7, is to actually, part of the resolution in my book is to send a note. Yeah. Now, if you really want to, you know, do well, gift card. You know, if it's a loan customer, man, you send them a gift card and you reiterate in the card, you know, Keith, without the feedback you gave me last week on the problem that we had in our transaction, my company would never have a chance to get better. I want to pay something forward and send you a $50 dinner for you and your wife, your partner. I want to make sure that you hear me say, we are really sorry for the situation.
I'll tell you what, it's funny you mentioned the handwritten cards, right? Because, I mean, people have made their livings, I know, by handwriting cards out. And I receive cards from time to time, sometimes maybe from Tim, sometimes from other people.
You got to model what you
And
preach.
it's really crazy to think, and I have cards on my desk where the feeling you get when you open a card and you actually took the time to write it in a day of text, email, I think it's extremely powerful. It's like, mail, everyone gets so much mail, nobody gets mail, nobody wants mail, but a card, like someone took the time to write, that's a victory in itself.
Yeah. So, we okay time-wise?
Yeah.
Okay, just a quick story of something that happened to me. I had a loan officer, broker working for me that went out to the field to cover a real estate office we hadn't called on a long time. Previous loan officer had a bad transaction in there, so this guy's name was Fernando. He shows up, and he comes up to this desk. Realtor's name is Jim, and the realtor says, "Hey, bad transaction with your company. Get out of here. No time." Comes back in and says, "Hey, this guy out there, Chino, had a bad transaction." I said, "Okay, let's go and try it again." Goes out there, tries it again, comes back. So I said, "Let me go with you," right? So I love problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
I show up in the field. I go out there to meet this guy, and I walk up the desk, and he's at his desk. He's not even looking at me, but he's got some little thing in his hand like this. I said, "Hey, Jim, how you doing?" "Tim from, South Pacific Financial, my old company." Yeah. "I just want to let you know, Fernando's been in here. I just want to really find out what happened in that transaction. And, I want you to know our company really cares. And Fernando's a new guy trying to break in this territory." All these pleadings. And he's sitting there with whatever's in his fingers. And he goes, "Tim, I've been waiting for this day for 3 years."
Wow.
I'm like, I thought very calmly.
Yeah.
And he began to say, "I can't tell you the amount of pleasure I'm getting in telling you that I will never, ever do business with your company again. And I'm out there to try to show my new loan officer turnaround skills.
Yeah, look how good I am. I'll never use you."
No, and he said, no, true story. "I'm relishing this moment." First of all, I thought this guy's kind of a wounded guy, but I'm not a bad guy.
This is what you've been waiting for,
No, it's true story. So watch this here. Many years later, my company starts a wholesale division, and we're offering these success partnering for brokers.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if you forgot who I was or whatever, but our wholesale division was called Funding Solutions Bancorp. So I'm at the front desk. I'm the speaker that day. I'm going to do some training, whatever, to help brokers, do what I can to help people grow, and et cetera, et cetera. And Jim walks up. "Tim, how you doing?" I said, "Jim, man," he goes, "do you remember me?" I said, "Sure, I remember you." He goes,
"I've been waiting for the day."
No. So he thought I forgot, and which is fine. I didn't say a word.
Sure.
I said, "Jim, look, he was there with his daughter. He was a small broker, was a realtor, becoming a mortgage broker. And like, this is a chance for me to be who I really am in my heart." Yeah. And, and it was a great day. Welcomed him in, come on in, followed up with him. He got to see who I really was that he didn't want to see back then. Yeah, and so at the end of the day, you want to be the kind of person that absolutely tries to recover customer loyalty. And in that book, Winning Excellence, this gentleman that ran the Rich Carlton gives some great ideas. But it's in the heart, Yeah. And so I tell that story, and I don't even know if Jim's even alive anymore, but at the end of the day, just telling it again re-energizes me to be the kind of person that wants to show up and care. Yeah. So,
one part of that too, though, that I would just want to highlight from listening is that too often, I've been an AE much of my life, right? I've called on offices, I've worked for different companies, and such and such company I worked for, maybe at one point, something went sideways, right? And then you're calling them
surprise, mortgage business.
Yeah, mortgage business, right? And you're like, nope, I'm never going to use you. You're a nice guy, but your company did this, and
that's happened to me too.
How many times? I think the challenge is how you react to that. Okay, you know what? I'm not going back. No, Fernando went back. You went back. Yeah. That's super important because giving up, you give up, you lost. Yeah. You can't stop going and trying. Yeah. And I think what happens over time, they'll be like, okay, we had that situation one time. But man, they're still coming. They're still coming. All right, man. Yeah. Let's. Yeah. One of my best clients in my business came out of, what we call a full montage. We had a disaster happen in a business. We came into the market. We didn't know, really, we weren't prepared for what we brought in, right? We just, hey, let's do this. Got a ton of loans in. Everything went sideways. I know all the other local AEs were so happy as all the loans were being transferred back out, you know. But here's the thing, through that, I actually have gentlemen I work with today, become one of my most closest personal friends. And it came out of the worst. Yeah. If I'm honest, it was probably the worst experience of my life. Yeah. I mean, everything was derailing. Every day the calls were complaint. But thank goodness, thank God that I still answered the phone. Yeah. And didn't stop. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's the point, is you just go back, try again. If a realtor's upset, give them a little time and go back and talk to them, and don't stop. You know? Yeah.
So to finish the story about Jim, I did. I mean, at that point, I had been through I was seasoned in the business now, using selling skills. Yeah. I probably said to him 3 times, Jim, I just want to be able to follow up with you at some point in the future. You know, maybe even just to demonstrate how our company's changed, our culture changed. I mean, I'm a sales guy, so I'm literally selling. Found, all those things. And he's still sitting there. So what happened was, in his humanity, he just closed it out. Yeah. But I can guarantee you, the average person won't do that.
Yeah, for sure. There's usually the extremes, right?
I use that as an extreme because it was like, man, I thought I could recover anybody, you know. Yeah. But one of the things I say in my sales training is, I never met a realtor I didn't like. Yeah. And then I just shut up. And people think this guy must not have originated very many loans. But then what happens is...
But you don't know my realtor.
Well, but that's when the law of attraction kicks in. Mm-hmm. You know, you literally will attract... Maybe we'll talk about that someday. You'll attract who you are. Yeah. You know, and so one of the questions I asked you earlier today, it was fun. We were having a little bantering back and forth. And I'm just wrestling with this question now, okay? Yeah. Viewing Jack's thesis of becoming, you know, that being that has wisdom to offer. Are we striving to be the very best versions of ourselves possible? Yeah. And I really want, God, the universe, to give me the energy to pursue that in all the roles I play. Sure. And that's where I'm at today. And so, how do I help people, grab a hold of that question and do that in the mortgage business? How can you become just a simple decision? Yeah. What is the decision I want to make today? So I just get really excited about the opportunity to do this. I mean, it's just a great chance. So I asked you that question, and you referenced the book. So
Keith, right there, Atomic Habits.
Yeah, and Keith and I have this relationship where this guy has given me so much access to his head, his heart, everything, and I just love working with him and being a friend of his and stuff.
Likewise.
Yeah, but I guess you answered the question well. Are you? I'm telling you, I am. I'm trying, and are you committed to be the very best version of yourself possible?
Yeah, and
it's funny. It's kind of a weird question, but it's relative today.
Well, and here's the thing. So, like all of us, we go probably in and out of circles, right? So of the best version of myself. A couple of years ago, I was 240 pounds, and I thought, man, I might die. Really, I'm not in good shape. Yeah. And then I thought, well, what if I did something crazy? I started training for an Ironman. Did all that, and I was like, okay, great. Well, I've been out of training for a couple months again right now, with life and other things, and I'm getting back into it. So it's not always perfect, to answer your question. Right. So to answer your question is that I do make sure that I have more pluses than minuses in that answer, because most days I can tell you I'm committed to it. I get up. I want to support my team, my clients as best I can every day. It's one of the reasons we came up with this idea, was to share stuff. Yeah. You don't have to buy anything. We're not selling anything. Right. But yes, the point from Atomic Habits was just so simple that, if a plane was leaving from, I don't remember the exact thing, but from California going to New York, if you're, one degree this way or 1 degree that way, you're like in Florida or you're in Canada, right? Yeah. So if you can have even the slightest in your 5-day or 6-day work week, if at least one of those, there's one more day that you are the best version of yourself and help you the most, well, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
So I hope I get more than 3 out of a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we all have a rough day, right?
Yeah.
But every day that is something I'm committed to.
Well, but I'm just some of the book I'm reading about neuroscience and some of the things I'm reading is encouraging me to ask those kind of questions, and then to actually go into go a little deeper into trying to draw that being out of myself.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why my wife and I get a chance to read most mornings together, and I have the luxury of that. And then I get a chance just to kind of share with her what some of the stuff's going on from the stuff I'm reading, and it's been a great journey. But the point is, if I'm thinking about a mortgage professional today, knowing that this has been the toughest market,
for sure,
with some of my very best, and some of my business friends actually having to sell their companies or go out of business. This is a good cycle to be asking those deeper questions. How do I become the very best version of myself? And it does take commitment, and it does take it's a decision. I'm going to try.
Well, you mentioned earlier, you were in a room of 200 people, and the speaker at that time said, look, only 10% of you are going to do what I say.
Yeah.
So that was 20 in that. I don't know, because at Mortgage Meet we verified nothing, but I know that the numbers were whatever they were.
I could have said it was 10,000.
You could have said it was 10,000. No, the point was,
I didn't know that.
There was a stat I saw recently, and it was the number of loan officers that 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And then what it was, 2 years ago, a year.
Yeah.
And the number today, and I don't remember what, but it was like 25%.
Yeah.
So meaning if there was, 100 loan officers out there in your market space,
right.
There's likely 25. And those are probably the 25 that listen today. And unfortunately, the ones that don't take action, it may be down to 20, right?
Yeah.
But the ones that take action are going to have this huge opportunity because they're really the ones that are going to grow. And, and
well,
own this.
It's so funny you see these podcasts and how they set up their product.
Uh-huh.
It's so funny how they do that. And so this naturally just came to me, the idea that we're going to be doing this training.
Yeah.
And so
there you go. Hey,
I didn't know,
what are you doing?
I didn't know we would be good at this together. But
what are you doing on March 19th?
Yeah. So, well, you could talk about it because you've been exposed to some of it.
Yeah.
But the point is, we together we want to create the kind of environments that are learning environments for loan officers or brokers. Create environments that actually where they can come to a meeting, and in my mind, if I don't see people getting traction from it, man, I'm disappointed as a trainer.
Sure.
I would, this, I will die 1,000 deaths if I don't see that somehow or another we were used to actually have, some people advance their career. So we're going to be doing some workshops this year. I think it's a good year to do it.
For sure.
The workshops are very interactive, so people come in are going to be expected to actually do work.
Yeah, that's true. So the ones coming up, we'll put the link below. There is going to be limited seating. We've reserved a local hotel here, the Best Western, here in Chickamauga. Details below. It's going to be a 10:30 to 12:30 deal. You'll have like 1 hour powerful training and sharing from some of Tim's knowledge.
Yep.
And then we'll have lunch together and break bread with fellow brokers.
Yep.
Open Q&A just about anything about the mortgage business. So we're super excited to do that. And the best part is it's completely free. So all you got to do is RSVP, bring an open mind, open heart, and let Tim share.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Right, it was a pleasure. We've never done this before, but it was a good day. So
it was a very good day. Thanks everybody. Again, Mortgage Meet, marketing, education, activities, and tips for mortgage loan originators. And we will see you soon. And do pay attention to the outtake I'm going to put after this because it's pretty special about my dad that Tim shared.
Yeah, stick around for that. That was really a cool moment. So
out of the blue. All right, thanks everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
I told you. I'm so glad I didn't mention the guy's name.
Funny stories. So my dad and I, this is my pops. There's sort of in these cups. So this one had coffee in it. But so my dad had a saying in his art gallery. Because a lot of people would come in and they said, man, I wish I could paint. And he would say,
oh, that's beautiful.
Have you tried?
That's beautiful.
Because how many people would literally be like, well, I could never paint like you.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I thought that too. Then I started, So, this is, my dad was always the mouse. This is kind of the logo I made. This goes on my jersey when I do Iron Man and stuff. So,
Wow, what a
but, roughly. But so,
you're sponsoring my man crush more on yourself.
But the cool thing about these, my dad always had a cup in his hand. That's why I made these. If you always had a green or a pink plastic cup, 90% of the time it had whiskey and 7 in it. Like when I was younger, it shouldn't be in the car. Whiskey and 7.
He was an artist.
Whatever,
yeah. Moments when I sense it. I like to ask what the name of someone means. Your dad has 3. I texted to you, by the way, so you have it. Free man and strong and courageous.
Those are pretty good things.
Yeah. Now, free man and strong and masculine.
That's awesome.
Heartless.
That is a great way to think of my pops, for sure.
Yeah. I was thinking about the what you were saying about the artist, right? Those are free men.